0, 1. Let's get started.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the Black and White United Show. I'm your host Andreas. Thank you so much for tuning in with me this morning. In today's episode, we're just going to talk about the potential free agents and stuff like that that could be coming to Collingwood, or that Collingwood could be after, or that we're talking to. I just thought I'd do a video of that, something different. Let's just get straight into it. Today's episode is sponsored by Hopper Bros Barbecue. For all your tips and tricks, make sure you jump onto their Instagram, give them a like, give them a follow. Their page is unbelievable, guys. Check it out. So I think it was back in 2017, so the end of the 2017 season going into 2018, I believe it was the draft when Matt Rowell got picked as number 1. So if my years are off, then someone correct me in the comments, but I think that was correct. It was the 2017 draft going into 2018. Matt Rowell gets drafted, and he goes to Gold Coast at pick 1. Now, Collingwood in the off-season, right, of that off-season, inquired with Gold Coast and said, what will it take you guys to give us the number 1 pick? Now, I've said this in a video before and I've told the story, but I'll go over it again a little bit. But it was also said on Gettables on the AFL website the other day. And I think Cal Toomey said it, which I was a bit like, oh, damn, because I wanted to use it for the thing. But what happened was, when Collingwood inquired about that, Gold Coast came back and said, you can have the number 1 draft pick, but we want Adam Treloar, and I'm pretty sure it was a few sweeteners behind, like second round, third round picks or whatever. Collingwood said no. Fast forward a couple of years later, right, we've done the fire sale, and we've got rid of Jaden Stevenson, Adam Treloar. Go another year later, we've got rid of Brodie Grundy. Like, we've just got rid of all these players. Now, we had to do that in order to have the success in 2023 and to be in the position that we are now. 100%. We had to do that. But if we had got rid of Treloar then, mind you, fantastic servant of the football club and shattered, he's gone, we would have Matt Rowell now. So the point is, Collingwood have had an eye on Matt Rowell since he was in the draft. So there is a desire from Collingwood to have this player in their team and to fit straight into the midfield. We're talking years later, the club is still interested. Obviously, there's other clubs interested in him as well. And Matt Rowell's gone and he's spoken to Geelong, Collingwood, I think he's spoken to Essendon. So there's talks there. Where there is smoke, there is fire. Matt Rowell is a restricted free agent. So no matter what happens, if he turns around to Gold Coast and says, I want to go to Collingwood next year, they're going to have to facilitate a trade. And it's going to be a horrible one. It's going to be so tough on not just us, but every other club. But for a club that doesn't have a lot of draft capital at the moment, and the rules haven't been set as to what first round picks we can access from future drafts just yet, we're going to have to sort of hope that happens in order to give something to Gold Coast. Now, Matt Rowell is he's not worth a number 1 pick, but he's worth a first round draft pick, potentially a player, maybe a first rounder and a second rounder or something. Now, I'm not going to talk about players that need to be traded for this particular trade. The next one I will. But I do believe that out of all the ones I'm going to list today, and you know by the thumbnail, the ones that I'm going to list today, Matt Rowell is probably the most likely that I believe will land at Collingwood. Watch this space. Okay, so this one here, when I started this channel, I really pushed it. There is a romantic feel about Christian Petracca coming to Collingwood. Now, if Petracca was going to leave Melbourne and he was going to go to any 2 clubs, he would go to either Collingwood or Carlton. He has publicly come out and said about the stuff with his brand or whatever. And at the start of this season, you had absolutely no idea where he was going to play during the off-season. Obviously, he came out and said he's fully invested and committed into Melbourne. Now, you could have, Harley Reid, you can have Oscar Allen, and any other player who's publicly come out, or there is a massive speculation that they're going to leave. Regardless, that player playing for their football club that year is going to be 110% solely invested in what's happening. You can look at Brayden Maynard as the perfect example. He hasn't re-signed for Collingwood. There's talks going on in the background. But you know when he steps on the field or when he comes to work every single day, he is 110% solely invested in the task ahead at his football club. And that's what every single player is like. So right now, there was a thing that came out, they said it on Fox Footy, that, you know, after Melbourne beat Fremantle last week, not this round, the round before, you know, he came out at the end and he gave the whole club a bit of a pump-up speech. It was emotional, it was passionate and blah, blah, blah. Fantastic. That's what you do when you're playing for a football club, right? You're not going to sit there, oh yeah, we won, piss off and go whatever. Your team's playing crap. You want to get them up because regardless, if you mentally know that you're not going to be there next year, you still want to win a flag that year. You still want to play good. You still want to make finals. You still want to have an impact, you know? Plus, you want to play good yourself because you get your stocks up at another club, you know? So there's all that type of stuff. Yeah, you take into consideration, you weigh it up. But what will it take for Christian Petracca to get to Collingwood? I have a theory, and this is just me absolutely speculating, pulling this out of nowhere. But Melbourne are going to play hardball, exactly what they did last year. They publicly made it like aware to all football clubs, if you want to try and get Petracca out of here, and they did it the same thing with Oliver with Geelong. If you want to get this player out of our football club, you are going to need to give us 2 number 1 draft picks. We want a really good player in return, and we want some sweeteners as well, some couple of future 3rd rounders or whatever it is, and we'll give you our superstar, and we'll give you a late 3rd rounder back, you know, just to, you know, pretty much take the piss. I don't think that's going to be the case now coming up. If Petracca comes to Melbourne at the end of the year and says, I gave you another year, I don't want to be here anymore, I want to move clubs, I want to play for Collingwood next season. Or Carlton next season or whatever, but obviously we're focusing on Collingwood. I want to play for Collingwood next season. I would be offering, if we can get our hands on a 1st rounder, like a future 1st rounder for the 2 drafts ahead, now that Tassie are going to come in and start compromising the draft even more, I would give Melbourne a future 1st rounder and I would trade off Ed Allen. Now, I know people are going to hear that and be like, what? Hang on a second, he's part of our future makeup, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But I've thought about it as much as I possibly could. Ned Long has taken over that spot, that bursting midfield spot, that crash, bash, I'm going to support Nick Daicos and be his bodyguard. Ned Long has taken that position. Ned Long is not losing that position. Ned Long is going to keep a Brownlow medalist and a premiership player in Tom Mitchell on the bench. Okay? Ned Long is not going to lose his spot to Ed Allen. You probably can't play Ed Allen on the wing because you've got other players on the wing, right? You got still side bottoms in the midfield now too. He's moved from the wing to the midfield, right? So, and to be honest, I'm playing Pat Lipinski every day of the week over Ed Allen. Like you think about the matchups and stuff like that, I would be saying to Melbourne, here is a player that is a good footballer, right? He is a gun in the 2s, right? He's a gun in the 2s. You take him to AFL level. He's already had a couple of pre-seasons in there. He just needs time inside an AFL starting 23. But our list is stacked. We can't have him in there at the moment. So if he stays with us, great, we'll keep him. But he's going to end up playing in the 2s for a while until the likes of Sidebottom, Pendlebury, and all these guys move on. But these guys are playing good football, and we're chasing a flag for at least for the next 2 seasons. Everyone thinks it's this season, but I reckon it's the next 2, just quietly. Petracca goes straight into that mix, right? And then somebody else will have to miss out, okay? But you put Petracca in your starting 23 every single day of the week, no matter what. My personal opinion is you give Melbourne a future 1st rounder, you give them Ed Allen, and you say, we will take Christian Petracca off you. Petracca has another 5, 6 years of football left in him, right? We will more, maybe. I don't even know his age. I probably should look it up, but I'm just assuming. Let's say minimum 5 years. 2 of those 5 are going to be Collingwood contending for a premiership. Now, this is a guy that's a Norm Smith medalist. He's a premiership player. He's an absolute champion footballer. Inject him into the midfield and see what happens. This would be a dream to have him at Collingwood. The only way that I see him fitting into us is a first rounder and a player of the likes of, obviously, Ed Allen. I don't think we've really got much other trade bait there because the other players that clubs would want are starting contributors for the Collingwood Football Club. And don't even come in the comments about Jordan De Goey. I know sometimes he's made of glass, but he's not even fully fit. And look what he's doing. Kicking 2 goals a game in the forward line and stuff. Wait till he gets 100%. Like Jerry Whitley says, you're going to have those De Goey moments. So don't comment about De Goey in the comments. Anyway, I'll get to the next one. But that's Rowell and Petracca done. I'll get to the next one. So obviously this video is just hypothetical situations and stuff like that. It's a Monday morning. Collingwood sitting on top of the ladder. I'm not doing the preview for the Geelong game just yet because it's still too early. But this is a Tats Lotto moment. This is daylight robbery. What happens if Marcus Bontempelli turns around to the Western Bulldogs and doesn't sign? Knowing my luck of posting this video, he's probably signed this morning and they're just about to break the news as I'm posting this video and I look like an idiot. But what would happen if Marcus Bontempelli turned around and said, I'm not signing for you guys, I'm going to Collingwood? Now, in the scheme of things, right, funnily enough, from Matt Rowell and Christian Petracca being, in contract and not unrestricted or anything, so Matt Rowell's a restricted free agent, Christian Petracca's in contract, so he's not even a free agent, right? Bontempelli is the easiest one that could come to Collingwood. What you need to do though, is you need to sell the club. Like I said, you want to sell the members, you want to sell the big games, you want to sell your brand, you want to sell what this club can do for you, as opposed to what would happen if you stay at your other club and be a champion of that football club and be regarded as the greatest ever. Now, I think even if, even if the planets aligned, and everything was 110% gonna happen and he came to Collingwood, right? He would still be regarded as the greatest Western Bulldogs player ever. Like, he is just a freak. There would be that cloud because he left, and people would revert obviously to Teddy Whitten as being the greatest ever. And there's an argument there for every aspect, every angle, whatever. We don't have to trade for Marcus Bontempelli. We don't have to access future drafts. We don't have to lose a gun. We don't have to potentially lose a kid. If we were to obviously get him, what would he cost? Bontempelli would cost us well over 1.2, 1.3 mil a season if we're to entice him to come to us, because the Dogs are going to throw the kitchen sink and everything at him to stay, and rightly so. It's a bit of a wild one. I think Collingwood would have to rely on retirements, which is a good segue to my next topic. Collingwood would have to rely on potentially Pendlebury, Sidebottom, Howe, Cox, even someone like a Jamie Elliott, all the usual suspects that are coming towards the end of their career. We'd have to rely on a lot of them to obviously move on, potentially even Braden Maynard moving on, so we can cover as much space as possible for his wage if he was to come. The likeliness of it happening is, I don't see it. If it did, it would be the biggest heist ever. I think it would be the biggest move probably since Buddy. It'll be just as big as Wayne Carey leaving North Melbourne, obviously different circumstances, but it'll be just as big as that. It would be... It's Ronaldo going to Real Madrid. That's how big it would be in AFL terms, if that happened. I don't see it happening. even though the likeliness and to get it happening is actually not that difficult, you're going to try and convince someone who absolutely bleeds that football club to leave. That's all I pretty much got time for at the moment. That's all I really wanted to talk about. Just, those three. Out of the three, Matt Rowell, Christian Petracca, or Bontempelli, I believe that Matt Rowell is the one that Collingwood is going to push for the most, and he's the most likely to land at Collingwood if any of the three were. I think with Petracca, the restriction that Melbourne's going to put on him is going to make it really difficult, and I think the romantic love that Bontempelli will have for the Bulldogs and becoming their best player is probably too much to leave to go to any football club regardless. But any of those three come to Collingwood, it would be like, wow, amazing. Especially after getting someone by the likes of Dan Houston last year, and these guys are going to line up next to what I believe is going to be the player of the next 50 years that we're going to see, really, like in the scheme of things, in Nick Daicos. I think he's just going to be someone that's going to be spoken about for a long time. And to have any of these players play next to him is going to be absolutely unbelievable. But we'll have to see what happens. The review for the Essendon game is on. Make sure you check it out. The preview for the Geelong game is going to happen most likely on Thursday. And then tomorrow night, 8:30, we're going to do some fan cams. We're going to talk to people. We're going to do our usual live on YouTube. So make sure you tune in for that. It's going to be good. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this. It's just hypotheticals. I'm just throwing it out there. Just a bit of Monday conversation for us all. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Call it as you see it. And as always, go the Pies.